Welcome to The Cultural Contrarian. Our podcasts are intended to be a sequential learning experience to provide a listener a safe and private encounter based upon critical thinking. We intentionally will be inviting listeners to self-examine, to compare and contrast what one believes to be true, what they claim is true, and investigating if something is logically true. Our mission is not necessarily a philosophical one, but one to engage, equip, and empower willing individuals to seek, claim, and reclaim freedom, rights, and independence at their own pace. Please join us becoming aware that we all may be contrarians to the prevailing culture. Welcome to The Cultural Contrarian. I'm your host, Ryan. Today we're going to start with what I envision is going to be a couple of lessons on a singular topic. It's going to branch out into more specifics of this overarching topic. Now, this one is a bit complex, and it touches on a diversity of issues in our daily lives. So it's rather complicated and will certainly provoke some additional questions and concerns. So please bear with me as I try to navigate through this series. And it's going to be building through each lesson, so it will be referring to previous conversations. So I want to address the topic of privacy. And this can really be a sensitive topic because many of us have a belief structure as to what really is private, but that may not really equate to actually what privacy actually means. And as I navigate through this message, if something sounds peculiar, I strongly encourage you to just make a note. Get a piece of paper and jot down a note. And this might be something that will be uncovered later as I'm speaking, or maybe uncovered in another lesson. So just keep that note handy. And if it doesn't come to fruition, you might want to do some research on it, or just leave it for a question that you can ask me in a private session. So let me begin with this declarative statement. It's kind of like the building point. The only expectation one can have regarding privacy is related to that which they have taken the steps in their life to keep private. So privacy is something that we create. It's not something that we expect to happen. So whenever we step outside of our home, we're outside of the privacy of our home. But here's the crazy thing. Our home isn't actually private. We don't have private property. This is going to be a little bit ground shaking, but we all have an implied license for people to come onto our property. That is how the Mormon missionaries, Jehovah's Witness, Amazon Prime, UPS, FedEx, and other delivery, the flower delivery people, they get flowers sent to a home. There's an implied license that allows people to enter onto your property. Now, to revoke that implied license, you have to do what the law, codes, and statutes say about providing reasonable, adequate notice that this is a secure property. It's private property, and there are certain signs that are required to notify people, and they have to be spaced a certain distance to uncover your property. Now, some properties have easements, and that you can't create private property that has an easement across it. So I want to give you some examples. There's a couple of different buckets of privacy. So I'm going to talk about the navigating life, just walking outside, and what we believe is private may not necessarily be private. So it's reasonable that if we walk into a public restroom, that we have an expectation of privacy. But actually, the bathroom itself is not private. If it is a multi-stalled bathroom, or for men's rooms, we have one area for urinals and one area for a commode, the actual private area is the area next to immediately in front of the urinal or in the private stalls. That's private. So someone can walk into a bathroom and audio video record in the bathroom, but they wouldn't be able to sit in one stall and then lift a camera up over top of the stall and video record someone else in the adjacent stall. That would be an invasion of privacy. Another area where we have an expectation of privacy is in a hotel room. That when we check into the hotel room, in that room, we have privacy. Or maybe we go to a chiropractor's office and he takes us into a private room for adjustment. But the privacy disappears if there's a window. If there is a window that is, there's no blinds on it or no curtains protecting it, somebody standing in public can look inside that room and see what's happening. They can take a video camera standing in public and record. See, the Supreme Court has ruled that our eyes cannot trespass. So if I'm standing somewhere in public and I'm viewing something, it's up to me to prevent people from looking into my home. Now, there are peeping Tom laws, and you have to read what that means per state, that prevent people from peering and leering and taking extreme measures to penetrate someone's dwelling visually. But that's governed per state. Another area that's private is if you go to a campground and you set up a tent or you put in a camper, that area is considered semi-private. Adjacent campground, you can view what's happening in the other person's, but there's kind of like this implied no trespassing in that area that you have staked out for rent for camping. When you go out into public and you're going down the sidewalk or you're going anywhere, maneuvering, driving a car, you are going to encounter video cameras mounted in all different areas. They're going to be mounted on poles. They're going to be mounted on the side of buildings. And they may be mounted inside of light fixtures. Sometimes you don't even know those cameras are there. But when we go into public, we're going to be captured on video recordings all over the place. And the law says that we don't need permission to record in public. And we inherently know this, that if we go to Disney World with a family on vacation and we have our family standing in front of the Cinderella's castle and we're taking photos where there's all these people in the background, we don't need to go and get permission, all those people standing in the background, to be part of your video or your photo. You know that. And that people will be taking pictures of their family and that you will cross by them. And you're not going to go up to them, oh, you don't have my permission to be in the picture. Because that's not how the law works. Or you also know this if you go to your child's sporting event and you're watching them doing cheerleading or child soccer or lacrosse, whatever they may be doing, and you're recording your child and all these other minor children playing sports. Or you may be recording the child and background of parents, and that's completely normal and acceptable. You don't need to get anyone's permission to record. Now, if you've spent any time on YouTube, there have been examples of what I call citizen journalists going out and recording in public, and they do it in unusual locations. They'll do it at a post office, they'll do it at a library, or they may do it in a police station. These are all places of public accommodation. Another example would be a school board meeting, that it's a public facility, it's open for public accommodation, that there is no law that prevents anyone from recording in public. Now, there's been a lot of confusion and misrepresentation and misstatements about that, but that is the way the First Amendment reads, that there's a right of freedom of press, and anything that we would gather that we could disseminate or distribute to other interested parties is protected under free press. So if I'm out videotaping my daughter skiing at the local mountain and there's a bunch of other people on there, well, I'm gathering that for my family's interest, and I want to share it with my friends and my family of my daughter skiing with her friends, regardless who's in it. So that's considered news, may have limited distribution, but it meets the legal definition of free press. Not my interpretation. That is how the Supreme Court interprets it. So we talked about areas where this is happening, that there is no privacy, but there are people that make claims that you can't record in certain areas. And we can record anywhere that has public accommodation. So let me go in a little bit further regarding this privacy element. I'm talking about how our visual and audio images are now can be in the public domain. That's not criminal. What somebody may choose to do with that information, such as what is referred to doxing, taking that video and trying to go get personally identifiable information and then share it on into tools like Twitter or Facebook or what have you, that's against the law. That you're not allowed to dox people is what they refer to it. But I want to say privacy is deeper than this audio and visual component. There's one aspect which is called data mining. And we've kind of grown accustomed to this data mining. When we moved away from physical fiat currency, dollars and coinage, and we moved into our credit-based society with these credit cards are a digital instrument that has a mag stripe or a chip on them that has personal details about us, our financial relationship to the credit card company, and some specific information such as our address and other personal information. So whenever we go transact and we hand a merchant that card, that data is being stored for the transaction to gain access to the money that's on that card and to be able to add to a statement that we can receive that bill in the mail. And there are some laws and codes that govern what can happen with that data. We've heard that data has been leaked. Maybe we haven't, but that credit card data from mass merchants, most notably Target in the past, it's happened to Sears, it's happened to Kmart, it's happened to Best Buy, it's happened to Applebee's, it's happened with Apple, where this data regarding people's credit card transactions winds up in the wrong people's hands. So that winds up being a risk relative to identity theft. So that's one area that we should be concerned about, our credit card data. The other aspect is that data, that credit card, in relationship to certain merchants that we purchase, that credit card transaction can actually be attached to an individual device. So let me give you an example. Walmart, with many of its large ticket items, utilize a technology called RFID tags, which is radio frequency identification. Now, they use it for their own manufacturing purposes, for their distribution channels and getting into the distribution hubs, and it's a way of maintaining efficiency and product flow through the supply chain from manufacturer to the retail outlet. But that RFID tag is also attached to the transaction. So they're able to identify who is purchasing let's say a refrigerator, for example. They purchase a refrigerator, they identify who purchased the refrigerator and where that refrigerator winds up. And then they can do such things with data analytics to find out which people prefer certain types of brands when they're purchasing. So they do this data mining, data profiling, social engineering based upon your buying habits. And that has another impact, and that is on what they're doing on the sales side as far as social engineering, media, and influencing our minds. And I'm free-flowing on this a little bit, so bear with me with my ADHD. The ability for these mass merchants to utilize the tools that we use online, there's going to be a synergy between a Walmart as a retail outlet and these social media sites that we utilize. So let's transition from the RFID tag in that this privacy doesn't exist, that our credit card information is now at Walmart and it's got more data about how we're transacting in the brands that we choose. But the next piece of the pie is what we're doing online. And online is probably the biggest vulnerability we all have. So whenever we log on to our computer, we have username and password to log into our computer, and we're going to do everything natively inside of our computer until we connect to the internet. And when we connect to the internet, every time we make a connection to the internet, our privacy is being compromised because we haven't secured our path on the internet. Now, there are tools and strategies on how to protect yourself once you step off of your desktop, you connect to the internet, you go outside. And that's another level of privacy conversation by using secured routers and encrypted communication and things of that nature. And by the way, I'm going to dovetail for a moment. Inside the podcast, I'm going to share a speech that was done by the ex-FBI director Comey, where he's participating in a speech at a university up in New England, and he was speaking specifically about privacy. Privacy doesn't exist, and his adverse thoughts or opinions regarding encryption. I happen to disagree with the Director Comey, or ex-Director Comey. I believe encryption is a way for us to keep things that we desire to be private from people that have no need to have that information that we want to keep private. So encryption is a tool to do that. So going online, there are many tools that we can take advantage of, VPNs and encryption, to protect that outbound communication. But the soon as we click off of our desktop and we connect online wherever we go, we're opening ourselves up for that data acquisition. We are just now a product of information to whichever portal that we're using to go out and gain access or whatever we may visit. And our eyes, our keystrokes, our mouse movement are all social engineering aspects which are used by wherever we go online. And our impulsivity combined with our desire to use the efficiency of those experiences online is our greatest weakness, because we will quickly go to something that somebody tells us, you need to check out this new website, this new app. And we don't read the terms and service and the privacy statements. We just click a little button that says, I agree to having read those, but we'd never read those, let alone understood them if we were to read them. So I'm trying to keep my broadcast at around 15 minutes. So I just want to say I want to continue this conversation in the next lesson. We'll call it part 2, and we're going to talk about the digital risk of privacy or privacy online. So thanks for joining, and I look forward to our next lesson. Take care. Thanks for being part of the Cultural Contrarian family. If you haven't already taken the step to see the broader efforts of the CC family, I invite you to go to bit.ly/team-cc. Remember, we can choose to remain tough on ourselves, tender towards others, and always teachable. Have a blessed day.